we are going to attempt to make our final version of our faux calligraphy design. And for that, I wanted to show you that I'm going to use our liner pens, an eraser, a mechanical pencil because it makes a tighter line. I'm also going to need a ruler, an X-Acto knife, and last we need our smooth cardstock paper. This is a heavy weighted paper. It's not like copy paper. Heavyweight, it's smooth, and it should you should be able to tell the difference between. You can feel you can even hear the difference of that paper. So try to get your hands on that. You should have plenty of number of this type of paper, this smooth cardstock. The first thing I want to talk about is our sketch. Our sketch, if I was to do this design, I know that this design is a particular measurement, and I can just extrapolate out from there if we use our rule of thirds. So right now it's about 2.5 centimeters or so. I can make this bigger. So if I wanted to make this 4 centimeters across, I can. By 4 centimeters by 4 centimeters. All I have to do is extrapolate that. So if this design is 4 centimeters, that means that 4 centimeters times 3 is going to be 12 centimeters total, both across and up. So now that I know that measurement, I can now move on to my paper and make guidelines for that. So we'll do that now. I'm going to measure over from a clean corner, 12 centimeters, and mark at 12. Now try to make your marks really small. Try to make your marks really small so that you don't have a lot to erase. I'm also going to make measurements at the third mark, so at 4 and 8. Remember, we multiplied 4 times 3, so if we apply the rule of thirds, that's going to be at 4 and 8, and then 12 to make our 1, 2, 3 rule of thirds in one direction. I'm going to move up the paper and make another set of marks in the same way. 4, 8, and 12. And now I'm going to connect those marks together using a very light line. And continue connecting those marks. Now you may or may not be able to see those, but remember to keep your lines light. And we have them in this direction. Now we're going to turn our page over and measure in the other direction. We're going to measure from the side of the paper, right side of the paper, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 12. And go further down the paper, measure up to the side, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 to 12, and there's our 12 by 12 centimeter block. I'm going to connect these lines together. Now I'm just concerned with the middle part because I want to center my design here, so I'm not going to draw this line all the way through. It's just going to be a guideline for the center. And then on the end, I can draw all the way through that. And there's the edge of our piece of paper, of our composition. So now, before I get too far ahead of myself, I want to go ahead and cut this all out of this larger sheet, this A4 sheet. and I'm going to use my X-Acto knife. Now remember that a couple of key things we want to keep in mind. One is that we always want to make sure that this collar to keep this X-Acto knife is on tight, and I'm twisting it to the left. I want to make sure that the pointy end, that pointy tip, is nice and sharp. And I'm also going to hold this like a pencil, like this. And I'm always going to keep it at a 45-degree angle. So if I were to cut this box, it would always be at this angle. Notice that there's a 45-degree angle of that blade. I never want to do this because I won't cut the paper at all. And I don't want to do this because I will break that little tip off, and I don't want to do that. What initially happens is that whenever you do a cut that is a proper cut, you poke that sharp tip through the paper, and then you're pulling that knife along to cut through the paper and that edge. So we want to make sure that we keep that in mind. Remember, also practice safety and keep your fingers on. I'm right-handed, so I'm going to keep my left-handed fingers away from this edge. I'm going to make sure that I'm always going to be cutting on the outside of my composition. I'm never going to cut on this side because I might mangle and cut through my piece. And having my ruler on this side, I'm cutting on the outside, so I'm not at risk of ruining my composition area. So I'm going to line up the ruler to my edge, make sure it's barely visible. I'm going to place my hands. I like this little divot in the ruler to place your fingers. Keep that nice and tight. And I'm actually going to stand up from my chair. I'm going to hold my X-Acto knife at a 45-degree angle and poke down in the paper and apply some pressure to go through that cardstock. And once I do that, I'm going to try lifting up. Notice I didn't go all the way through, so I'm going to keep my ruler here and try it again. It tells me that I need to replace my blade, maybe. There I go. Cut right through it. Now you may run into this. Always keep your ruler stationary as you lift up on this piece of paper to make sure that you went through. That will save you a lot of headache trying to line that up again. Okay, so we have this cut. I'm going to do the other side. Line this up. I'm still standing because I like to stand because as I cut towards me, I can see everything that's happening. And if I were sitting down, it's just more awkward for me to make that kind of cut towards you. We never want to cut from side to side. That's an awkward hand position. We always want to cut towards us and look at everything we're doing. So I have this lined up. I'm going to hold down my ruler. Fingers are out of the way. Press down and pull that straight towards me. Then release. Put down my X-Acto, and I think I went through everything. Yep, there I go. There's my composition. Now at any point, I'm going to cap this X-Acto knife. At any point, we might mess up. We might mess this up still. Even though we cut this out and measured everything, we might mess it up. So we have plenty of paper. I don't want you to stress about, ruining this and holding this sacred because we always have more paper to make more designs. Now, regarding my composition, I need and want to center that composition inside this square, but I also want to utilize the centering points and bisecting points of just this square. So if I measure out to 2 centimeters by 2 centimeters. And the other way, let me put a term. 2 centimeters. 2 centimeters. I can now make those lines, those guidelines, to help me center the exact design in the exact place that I want it, and even help me draw a circle for my design. Remember, we're doing that circular design, and I'm going to leave some margin between the edge. I don't want to go right up into the line. I want to leave some margin for this circle. And you may use a compass. You may use a coin or something round. But I'm just roughing this in, and it doesn't have to be exact because we're not utilizing and not taking advantage of the entire circle. We just want to get a curved shape for the bottom and the top, and that's really all we're concerned with right now. Okay, we can erase some of these guidelines and kind of get ahead of that. So here's my eraser. And maybe some of the darker lines that I did might take a little bit more pressure to get rid of. Okay. Okay, and I can actually start to write out the word you and finesse. I know O is going to go in the middle in cursive, and Y, and come back up, U. And also remember, these are just guidelines, right? Even if we were to write down this and want to make a correction later with pen, we can still do that. Remember, pen is where we have to commit, really. I'm going to do BRUH question mark, and I already know from the experiments today that BRUH, the U, the end of the U is in more towards the center. And then the question mark. And then this is the part that I find even tough, is trying to gauge how much do I need for BRU. I need a little bit more. And maybe even a little bit more. There's a little bit of a curve I need to compensate for, so maybe that's more up. We'll see. We'll see what we need. And then finally, I can make some very light guides that will act as the top and bottom for the word mad. And I know that MAD is not quite in the center. And this may be a little close. I may want to correct that margin or make the B smaller. Maybe even move it over a tad, but that's penciling it in and finalizing that. I then can move over to my liner pens and figure out which liner I might want to use. I'm going to try the 0.3 since I know it's not that delicate of an edge, and I'll still have more room to play with, but it's now that I really want to concentrate and figure this out. Add in my thickness. Now I've made this harder on myself by adding in this slight curve. You may have one that's all on the same line and in the same position, so it may be different for you. Okay, and then the next one, the bra, infinitely more difficult. I think that's better. Although U is kind of mixed in with R, so I messed that up a bit. But we're gonna go with it. I can do it over if I want. Transitions are tough. Transitions between letters. Some transitions are more difficult than others. So there's that. And then finally, I wanted to go not so. I guess it's okay. Remember to always rotate your paper. And now I can add some thickness, line thickness in for these letters. And finish it off. It looks like it's heavier to the right or to the left side, but again, we can do this over if we need to. I'm gonna wait a while to erase. I'm gonna make sure that the ink has been soaked up into the paper. I wanna make sure it's dry. If you ink and use a lot of ink, be really careful about erasing too soon because you may smear the ink. Let's see if U is dry. Yep. And it looks like it's dried pretty quickly. Clean up all your stray pencil marks. Looks like there's an ink thing there, but it's not bad. The bra looks really weird, so I need to fix that in my next one, but you get the idea. And make sure that your measurements are good, make sure that your guides are good. We have plenty of white space around our design, and we will do another one tomorrow in black. If you have any questions, let me know. All right, guys, good luck. Good luck measuring and cutting, and be safe when using that X-Acto knife. We'll see you next time.